Welcome back to the Rotation Show, everybody. We're here with AJ.
Yes, sir.
Myself, Alex, and we have two very special guests today joining us. It's an honor to have them. They are leading the way right now in pushing for access for medical cannabis for veterans and medical patients in the state of California. Deep in working on legislation. I mean, they're really in it, doing some great work, and we're excited to hear what they're about and what they've been up to lately and what we can expect from the future. So welcome, Sean and Mark from We For Warriors.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having us, brother.
Thank you for inviting us over.
You know, I understand you left one super hot spot, and now you're in Sacramento in another super hot spot. So, thanks for coming back to the heat.
Right.
just ideal, but, you know.
Just for the audience perspective, today it was 1:11, and after it being 1:15 yesterday.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the Queen of England died today. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot going on today. It was a pretty wild little...
Busy day.
Busy day, that's for sure.
And still hot.
Still fucking hot. But we only got one more day, and then everything drops to the 80s. So we're all right.
Ready for it.
Yeah.
Really, and we got the other side of the county on fire right now.
That's very true.
It's a crazy outlook, or smoke fire right now going on, right? Mosquito fire, I think is what they named it.
Forest Hill.
They said El Dorado, Placer County on the edge, so just north.
That place burned big last year.
Yeah.
The Caldor fire. So I don't know what it's hitting now. I mean, that sucks. Dude.
Yeah. It's been a better season this year, but hey, no fires are good fires.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, let's jump right into it. I want to know, obviously I know a little bit about what you guys are about. I've known you for a while now. But for our audience, for AJ, for, people out there that are curious, you guys want to give us like a little synopsis of what you guys do, what your mission is, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, simple. We've been giving free cannabis away to veteran patients in the state of California and across the country for over 7 years. And that's our mission: access to medicine that's saving lives. That's the basis of what we do.
That's fucking huge.
When you look at what we're seeing in the scientific studies that are coming out, they're looking at that. We're seeing where cannabis is accessible, available. We're seeing lower suicides, lower overdoses, lower domestic violence rates, less violent domestic, assaults. And so it all points to cannabis being the safer alternative to so many issues, not only opiates in terms of overdoses, not only in terms of, preventing suicide, but just in placement of alcohol. Alcohol makes you angry. Cannabis doesn't make you angry, right? So it doesn't shock any of us who have seen both sides, especially in the veteran community or any community that has a lot of experience with these issues, and that cannabis is the better solution, and that's what we've been advocating. And so all this is about, really, we had over 100,000 overdoses last year. Just came out. Hit 100,000 for the first time. That's 100,000 dead Americans who won't be at the Thanksgiving table, who won't be at the Christmas, tree or the Hanukkah bush. When we look at it, we're losing family members. And so what cannabis offers is, that safer substitute. If we can save 6-8%, whatever that number you want to say. And, the difference in terms of overdoses is in the teens. I mean, it's not insignificant. Those are real Americans at the table. And it's our view that they should be given that opportunity, especially those who fought for this country. And so when we see this, prohibition in the state of California, where 70% of the state had no access, and now they can get medical, access through medical delivery, it's an issue. And so that's what we've been fighting. Both, Mark doing an amazing job with the chapters and managing all that stuff, and managing so much of what we do, and then bringing that into the legislature and transitioning. We fought delivery bans was a big one. We just ended up, that started in 2017 with SB 1186. We just got guaranteed medical delivery in the state, anywhere in the state. SB 34, we bought hundreds of vets came to the Capitol, and they would go into committee, and they would literally, no one would know what to do, because you got 60 vets up there saying da-da-da-da-da, and no one's going to go against that, right? So it's a very powerful thing. And so it's been an amazing ride, and it's just been amazing to do it with Mark and our other partner, Kevin. And, we think we're just starting. So we think we can really turn this into something big.
I think that's cool, because you guys have the one group of people that nobody can shit on. You know, you got a regular stoner out there that says, "Oh, weed's good for this, weed's good for that." You got all the conservative, you know, people being like, "Oh, but he's a stupid stoner." You know what I mean? But they can't. They're so like America supportive that they cannot say that to you guys. They cannot
They
say
do.
They do.
You know?
That's some bullshit.
Well, you know, some funny stories. There's a WFWP veteran, and we were in Philadelphia on that tour where we crossed America in literally a van, Sprinterillo, and went to D.C. and dropped all the pills on the Obama White House. We stopped in Philadelphia a couple days before, and Mike Whiter, who was doing Operation Overmed out there, was doing a protest in the Veterans Day parade. And just to hear like the concern, why it was interesting, Philadelphia. But at the end of the parade, the police chief and everyone came up and was kind of disgusted about marijuana and all this stuff. And we had a double amputee there. And he's talking to this cop, and the cop just shakes his head and totally in a disrespectful manner turns away from him. And so it's breaking down those barriers that exist in you know, growing up in an Irish family. Alcohol was fine, right?
Yeah,
Marijuana
absolutely.
was horrible. My dad was a captain. Mark would laugh at this. We'd visit my dad, and my dad was talking about how he used to bust, you know, the soldiers in Vietnam on guard duty smoking pot.
Right.
And a big smile went across his face, and I'm just shaking my head, right? But it's that, you know, and by the way, they drink every night, my mom and dad, right?
Oh, yeah. Right.
And, you know, they take, the doctor, pharmaceutical opiates. You know, it's that old story. So
Absolutely.
we all have that in our family lineage, and it's all something I think we freed ourselves. And so I think from that perspective, it's we do get a lot of people who challenge us, and I find it interesting. I find it really interesting.
And that's where it's bringing us everybody's voice for their own. Like, we just turn to the veterans, let them talk.
Let them talk.
We let them talk. I mean, at the state capitol, people come afterwards and go, "Hey, tell the veterans to say this or act like this," and we go, "No,
Nope.
we're not that." They're speaking on behalf of themselves. We brought them here because they know it's a serious issue, but they're telling you why, because of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, can I bring you back? What is a double ETB? Or
Amputee.
Double amputee. Okay, got you.
Right. And so
Wow.
veteran who had lost his legs in an
Wow.
IED explosion
Yeah.
and literally has been fighting for not only cannabis reform but other psychedelic reform out of Southern California. Good guy, and he very passionate on what he does. He surfs a lot. And he had a lot to say, and the guy totally disrespected him and turned away. It was one of the more interesting moments I had experienced. The Northeast is a very different view of it too than out here in California.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about this earlier, and I really think that our generation and our push is going to flush a lot of those guys out. I mean, I know that, you know, the the Midwest and other states like that all the way to the east, like fucking Virginia or North Carolina, like those really I know so many people out there that are doing it illegally or you know what I mean, things like that, and they're gonna grow up, they're gonna have offspring, and eventually I think that the stern ones are gonna be washed out. I hope.
Right, we hope.
I hope.
Yeah.
How could they?
I think it's going to happen sooner or later.
Yeah,
right?
sooner or later.
But I mean, just like here in California, everybody thought it was good. It's good, and you can't get cannabis in almost 50% of the state of California.
70% of the
So
state.
let's talk about that,
That's
because I
crazy.
think probably people at home listening, right, or you know, anybody listening to this,
They
and
think
even
California-
for myself, like I understand how delivery works. So is it basically we're saying that there's certain smaller local jurisdictions that are preventing cannabis delivery from happening there, even though the state allows it as a whole?
Right. So 2017, UFCW, UCBA, which is a trade association, and a few other groups came into the Capitol, and they put a ban to ban delivery. We came in our first political experience and helped block that. It got kicked out and never introduced again. They've tried in multiple ways to reintroduce a delivery ban, and the most recent after that ruling, the state came out and said delivery's allowed on the road, and this local control didn't like that, and they sued. And there was a lawsuit, and basically Gavin Newsom, I think it was 2018, the way they settled it was we just walked into court. They walked into court and said, we're not going to object to local control banning delivery, but we don't have to help enforce it. and it's pretty much impossible to enforce without the state, because at that time you don't have to put who you're delivering to in metric, right? So there's no way for them to track. Well, the big complaint that local control has, and it's really the dispensaries, is delivery is parking itself in a lower tax district, having a competitive advantage, like take LA, right, where UCBA is. They're paying 10 plus, percent or whatever they're paying in city and local taxes, and the guy, from out in the outskirts who's paying 2% is coming in and delivering, right? So they found that offensive. And whether that's good or bad, I'm not going to get into, right? I can understand a dispensary owner's view, but that's really was a strange alliance. And then you had UFCW, because you had these strange bedfellows who fought with 216, supporting this, walking into the committee, supporting the delivery ban. And we're sitting there going, wait, access is the quintessential thing about medicine, lowering suicides, lowering overdoses, and you're trying to block access of cannabis you just legalized. This doesn't make sense. No. It's regulatory capture. It's taking regulations and using it to erect barriers to entry, and that's exactly what UCBA and a lot of these organizations push. Monopolies in certain areas. We only want 1 or 2 dispensaries. Once I have mine, and we hear this all the time in the initiative we're looking at running. And so what ended up happening was, at the beginning of this year, SB 1186 dropped. And we looked at the initial language of SB 1186, and that was sponsored by CCIA, and it was Senator Weiner who helped pass SB 34. And it was the medical access bill. And what they did was say, you have to have, at minimum, medical access brick and mortar. And you could ban dispensaries at delivery. And we objected to it on 2 fronts. One, basically CCIA just straight up lied to us and said, we're not looking to ban delivery. Yet we had an internal memo from them that said this can ban delivery. So the brick and mortars love this, because now delivery is one of their biggest competitors, right? And every locale is going to ban delivery because it's going to guarantee they get taxes. Right. So we called it out, and what we did and put on social media was, this is when we had an Instagram, we put all the board members of CCIs, their emails and the numbers, put up, the story and the internal memo and how they did in the email saying this doesn't ban delivery. And unbeknownst to me, what happens is we unleash this, just plethora of hate and anger from the veteran community on these. And suddenly I got called from Senator Weiner's office, and Mark and I walked down to Senator Weiner's office, and, he basically said, you know what, you're right. Thank you very much. And we're going to change this to fix it. So they sent us some proposed language that went from, what they had proposed to just guaranteeing medical access anywhere in the state via, at minimum, delivery. So you have to, you no longer, what was happening is locales like Santa Cruz, ironically, would give you a ticket if they pulled you over and they looked at your manifest and you were delivering to someone. They would say, we have it banned, because a lot, like 60 or so banned it. We're going to give you a ticket. So there was cat and mouse game they were playing, right? So local cities were banning under the, when Newsom walked away. This just got passed, and it should be signed by Gavin Newsom. If it doesn't, I think it will create a shitstorm. But they literally passed it at a last second, go around. It was the first bill passed under McCursa. The interpretation was, since it was McCursa passed by the legislature, we don't need the 2/3. And they stuffed it down. Senator Weiner's credit, he stuffed it down everyone's throat, and we got now guaranteed delivery to medical, and medical is defined as a doctor's recommendation. It's not defined as the state ID card, okay?
Great. So it could be a third-party recommendation.
Yeah, it can be like the doctor. Exactly. You can, and just this is really important. The give to this, and I believe this has so much of this is new. Try to figure out how this is going to work even for someone who's close to it is difficult. The give was under the budget bill that went through. You now have to enter, or is going to next year have to enter the address of delivery into metric. So there will be an audible track for to go back from taxes and say, hey, you delivered this much into Los Angeles, you owe these taxes.
Yeah, because right now it's really it's up to the person filing the taxes to say, right now I delivered to XYZ zip codes, and this is the tax rate I should pay. Or they're just using the lowest one of their
or not paying it,
or not paying.
So I got a few questions for clarification. Who is CCIC, and what does the acronym stand for?
California Cannabis Industry Association. It's one of the trade associations, state trade associations. It's run by Lindsay Robbins and Amy Jenkins. They're lobbyists,
and they're pro cannabis, but trying to limit access.
Yeah, I mean, listen. oligopoly, which we've created in the state. It's about limiting competition. So to give you an example, one of my classic stories, when we first came out with this initiative idea, and our local control has turned licensing into a state function like alcohol, right? Get rid of local control. And literally the objection I heard from the dispensary owners was, I like local control. Why? Because they played the lobby game. They understand how the city. I call the California Cannabis local control is 21st century Tammany Hall, which was the corrupt, town hall back east, and I think it was New York, or and it's created this quid pro quo game in these local communities. I mean, Mark and I sat in on one, and you just hear the back and forth, and basically, you got cash, we can do something,
right?
And so it just has created this, incestuous allies of an embedded cannabis industry now doesn't want to see a competitive access model. They want more a taxi cab model, because in the taxi cab model, the taxi cab medallion owners don't want more taxi cab medallion owners, because it increases the value of their taxi cab. So they're looking at it as an asset. I mean, no one in this industry is making money on the income statement, right?
100%.
Where they're making it is on the balance sheet, because the values of their licenses are going up. And so, for example, Jared Kylo, UCBA, was just on Cannabis Capital, and we're going to cut and slice it and put it up as a PSA. And basically bragging about how, through this type of regulatory capture, he's been able to turn his $5 million license valuation into a $12 million license valuation. And that's why you should pay him $500 to $100 a month to his trade association, because they're in lobbying. We want to deny access. No gives a fuck, excuse my language, about patients who need it, right?
Yeah.
And these people don't realize how uncharismatic their presentation is. And so we're just going to let them talk and let people see for themselves the type of people why we're in this situation. And we're in this situation because bad policy.
Right. And that brings me to my next one. It's coming to election season right now. We need to know more about Senator Wiener. Like, who is he? And I've never...
San Francisco senator. So we won't vote for him.
We can't vote for him up here.
No. I mean, Senator Wiener was a big supporter of Prop 64, at the end of the day. Okay. So if you're not a fan of Prop 64, that may not excite you. Two, he's very liberal in San Francisco. And, listen, we're in a divided country, so you may not like him that. But at the end of the day, what Senator Wiener has been about is fighting for cannabis. Yeah. And whether he fought, certain things the right way or not, he's come to the table to fix them. That's SB 34. That's SB 86.
Right.
Does he go far enough? I don't know. I would probably say I take much more a libertarian approach to the right model, right? If you want to eliminate the illicit market, empower industry to provide access, which is geographic and cost, right? And you get rid of the black market. It's not difficult. We've done it with a lot of goods, right? But that's not what this is about. They captured the cannabis market, and it really has been taxicabbed by a lot of DNC and the liberal community to organize, and at the end of the day, they haven't given back in terms of a functional market. If you look at the federal legislation, how the hell are you going to deschedule when you've built these $100 million supply chains that will be decimated from interstate trade?
Right.
You're not going to. And guess who's trying to stop descheduling as much as anyone? The MSOs, the people in these other states who don't want to compete against California cannabis, don't want to compete against Oregon cannabis, don't want to compete against Washington. Yeah, they don't. Because they know sun grow it, and we'll be selling
shit tons.
Yeah.
Shit tons.
They're out of
the same we've been doing for 100 years.
More or more. Shit.
Since the beginning.
Well, that's some interesting shit, man. You're a very smart guy,
that goes
Sean.
Straight to politics.
I'm already fucking getting this.
I mean, honestly,
I didn't know who I was sitting across from. I got to straighten up for Sean.
For myself, I see what you guys are doing, and it seems like something like I'm sitting at home. I'm like, man, I can't affect change. Like, you feel like you can't as one person, but hearing your story, like what you guys are doing, like it gives you like hope. Like, damn, like you guys are making progress and really trying to move things on behalf of those who can't for themselves.
And I think that's because why we've been doing it for so many years. We've been doing it for over 7 years, and why? To help our brothers and sisters. No other reason. We haven't been making money at it. We haven't been getting nothing for it.
There's no angle.
It's for, you ask any of the veterans that come to our events to get cannabis from us, we don't take from them. We don't want nothing from them.
Right.
You don't have to sign up with us. Just give your shit to the store because they need it legally. Sorry.
And
you need a recommendation to get it for free.
Yeah.
Why? Because we fought for it. At least it ain't the state card. You know what I mean? Like, you're not on a list. HIPAA, you're protected.
Absolutely.
So where does the funding or the how do veterans get it for free? My question is: there anywhere where companies like ours can donate? And
Correct.
is that
so
how?
that is SB 34.
Okay.
That we had to fight for. So when Prop 64 was introduced and written, there was no way for legal people, manufacturers, distributors, to give stuff away. There was taxes due, as you know, every time something's retail ready packaged, they're not going to want that check right away. Yeah. Hey, you made X amount, we need percentage on that. And so when we said, as we've been giving away cannabis for a long time before 64, we said we need to have a reason. We need to do this. We've been doing it. We're going to continue to do it regardless. Right. So we had to fight for SB 34. And SB 34 now allows manufacturers, distributors, cultivators to slot stuff within metric with no taxes due back, as long as it comes out of retail to a patient, meaning somebody with a recommendation on file at that retail store, so they can see it all the way out of the system, right? They didn't pay taxes on it. Where'd it go? Okay, it went out, slot it metric as a donation, and out to a patient.
Very cool. So there's an option now on metric that says donation?
Yep. It's a gift box. It's a gift box. I don't play around a metric. We don't own any licenses. Everything we're doing is to help and continue to give back.
Touch on your funding or self-funding. I mean, Mark and I are both disabled vets, so government writes a check. It's not a big money.
That's what's kept us, without having to hustle, right? Not and having to worry about a roof over our head and food in our mouths, right? We get a check every month,
right?
And so that being said, we've had some brands step up. I mean, PAX. We did a collab with PAX in Veterans Day in November, and it was by far our biggest. It wasn't, it was not a huge amount, but we got 40,000 off one, thing, and it was like awesome. It was like we just said, whoa, it was like so that cool. I mean, that's paying the gas. I mean, we basically our gas bills, hotels bills when we travel. I mean, we're going to do how many SB 34 events this month?
I got to count. I
was on your website, and I was like, damn! I swear to God, I was like expecting one or two, but it was like at least 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, we do 8 to 12 a month.
Wow,
and I think
and those rotate
different
through
areas
stores.
too.
Different. So back to like, how does that happen, right?
Yeah.
Brands will reach out and say, hey, we got product to donate, right? In this time and age, a lot of brands going under, a lot of excess flour. They're trying to get it off their books. Right? Get it out their shelves, it's coming close to expiration. They're either going to have to pay to destroy it.
Destroy
right? It's cost. It's cost labor for people to do it on camera, grind it up, put it in some dirt, whatever your local jurisdiction, because they're all different. Right. And so you can slot it in metric before expiration, right? Get it down to a retail store, and we throw events that give out upwards of 150 bags, 170. We did 175 recently in one event, one day, one dispensary.
And we're talking ounces and ounces of flour, concentrate, and they're not always going to be this
donation based, right? We're donation based. So we get SoCal veterans. I mean, we do events from San Diego to Sacramento, to the Bay, San Francisco. We're trying to get to the North Bay, trying to get up north. We might be in Redding here pretty soon in the next few weeks. That's cool. It's donation based. And then also it's me and Sean putting out our time, or our partner Kevin, right? Putting in to go there and run the event, help out. Let the store do what they do. Intake product and get product out. Don't worry about the crowd outside. Don't worry about recommendations, right? We'll make sure they have it all. Proof of service with us, with Weed for Warrior Project events, you have to have a medical marijuana recommendation and proof of service. Those are the only two recommendations to show up to an event. Get there a little bit early because they've been, we're only expanding as we can.
Right.
And logistics, you guys know in the space, is a pain in the ass. So logistical time frame. So, but our event flyers are posted on our website.
How does one prove service?
Many of documents, right? And as a veteran, you have IDs, DOD IDs. Your DD-214's the biggest ultimate proof, but that's a big piece of paper some people don't want to bring out. Understand? I'll accept a lot of forms. VA cards with your service on it or service connected on it. We a lot of different errors and different stuff, and people lose stuff. People have thrown away everything they have. You know what I mean?
Right.
But there are means and ways now to figure it out. Right? Not everybody's savvy enough to be on the internet and be doing stuff. Right? But we help them figure it out.
Yeah.
And so, there's a lot of, we help everything from people that got out 30 days ago to people that have been out,
and
Korean War veterans and stuff.
In 7 years, have you ever dealt with like a stolen valor or trying to get like a free bag?
Day one.
Really?
Day one.
Wow.
It happened.
Damn.
You guys know,
They're out there.
People range from A to Z. There's good people, there's bad people, and you got to be on your toes.
Right.
I mean, even within the community, stuff happens sometimes, you know. And people come up and try to use VA cards that they're a dependent, they're a spouse or a child of somebody, right? So they have a DOD, and you know what I mean. You're 16, you know, not 16, but a young kid, and there's no way you were an E9. You know what I mean?
Right.
And there's certain ways you can tell on IDs.
The Air Force, you know, promotes fast.
Right. But I mean, we want to help everybody we can. If we got stuff to give, and we've had a lot recently because there's a lot of stuff out there, we want to get it out. Right. I mean, we've done, you know, brands call and say they got 5, 10,000, 20,000 of X.
That's dope, dude.
And you go, damn. Right? And then I got to run logistics on where, okay, to keep their overhead down, they're already losing a lot, right? You guys know it's business owner. You're losing. Right. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
In a lot of our world, it's a loss. To some of these companies, it's nothing. It's back.
Well, sure. And it's also the way you got to dispose it. It costs money. It's hazardous waste.
Yes.
Another example of regulatory capture. I remember the waste companies lobbying for it to be hazardous waste so they can charge you large amounts of money. It's like
to destroy it.
That is California right there. And it's not just California, it's the country, but that's...
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
So that's what we're seeing is a lot of people are wanting to donate it versus throw it away because it costs them more and they get no benefit. At least they get the benefit of donating it to people who need it, right?
That's everything,
that's how it
dude.
should be. That's really how it should
way better than it expiring and figuring out. They even make you write up a plan on how you're going to do it and all of that. So that's time.
SOP,
And then, you know, that's pretty dope of the brands because you think about it, even though they're donating it, they're still paying probably an employee to move it to whatever distro needs to go. Or
that whole overhead, right? The cost of materials, the packaging, the labeling, the testing. You guys know, I mean, I know multiple people on the show have gone through the supply chain. It is lengthy, and like we were talking before, if it was rolling,
it's so dysfunctional.
It's a lot of paperwork and A's and B's and numbers and finger slip and new batches are created, and then you got your bugging metric, and then metrics doing whatever they're doing, and it's
it's constant.
You have to have somebody on it all the time.
It's always moving up and down all the time. It's a moving target.
One thing I was wondering about, and I don't know how much you guys can get into this, but I always wondered, because obviously you're working with vets and they have benefits from the government or the federal government, how does that all work? I mean, if there's somebody out there that's worried, like, hey, I want to
we'll probably approach this too differently. Why don't you take a shot at first?
I mean, from a legal perspective in states like California where it's legal and your doctors can talk to you. The VA came out a couple years ago that your doctors can talk to you if they want to, right? Doctor might talk to this patient, but not going to talk to this patient about it, right?
Sure.
And so in the state of California, you can have a medical marijuana recommendation and smoke weed. I mean, they try to ask me to leave them a copy at the desk. I said, yep, I'll do that. You don't need that.
Yeah.
Wait, leave who?
The VA's wanted a copy of my recommendation from what doctor? Yeah, you don't need that. You don't need that.
So legally, they're not allowed to affect your benefits. I mean, I can smoke like a chimney, and I have on our VA telecams with my psychiatrist, and they're not supposed to. But what's going on now and how they're attacking it now, because my concern, what you said earlier, is like abortion. The prohibitionists are not going to stop until they change it again, right? So one of the things we're seeing is where they would stop benefits is if you're use cannabis, they will block you from addictive drugs because it's an addictive drug. Cannabis, you are a drug addict, so medical necessity says we don't give you other addictive drugs. So in my sense, ADD, I can't get my ADD meds through the VA because you're a drug addict. Because you
got it.
Now what they're using is this label called cannabis use disorder. So if you pee or you admit to cannabis use, you get classified as cannabis use disorder. What they are doing, in my opinion, is they are trying to attach that label to a lot of very dysfunctional people, to 100% disabled vets, with problems. So now when they do research, they can associate all these bad attributes. And so what you're seeing now is these statistical review studies that looks at file paperwork. And they go back and they look at Sean or Mark and they say, this is a cannabis user. Everything in that file, this fucked up vet did is now associated with as someone addicted to cannabis. And so that's the secret they're coming in right now with this cannabis use disorder and what no one's really talking about. So that's how they're going to attack it, is they're going to start to create a lot of BS research, and it's going to be based around the cannabis use disorder designation.
And they put disorder at the end so that it's negative.
Right, language is a powerful thing.
Yeah, it is.
Do we know why they want to do this? Does this make sense?
I mean, listen, there's a lot of follow the money in America, right? The conspiracy theory, but it doesn't mean it's not true. Listen, you look at the headlines. The numbers they do have now is big pharma is losing big.
Yeah.
Where we see
100%.
cannabis legalization, pharma demand is dropping off a cliff. I don't need my
Tobacco,
Xanax. I don't need my opiates. I don't alcohol. Opiates, right? You see in California more so there are embedded for-profit industries, complexes, military industrial complexes that have been blocking cannabis use. Talk about the police. Asset forfeiture. You know how much money they were making off asset forfeiture? Even in the state of California, the first like $40 million goes to the police. There's a reason. They were going to lose money from their budget.
Oh.
Damn.
So all these forces together have an incentivized interest to keep the status quo. Talk about the prison industry. We've all done the overlay, and I hate to say, between the war on drugs and when it started in the 70s and the prison population. It's like a one-on-one graph the whole way up.
Wow.
So
the prison industry is making a fucking killing right now.
yeah.
Oh,
It is.
big money maker.
Huge.
Yeah, they need more. They
Sad.
need more prisons.
Sad.
They're letting people out and all that, but I think they need to cap it and let all the nonviolent criminals out.
Right. Why are we paying $60,000, $70,000 a year to keep a nonviolent drug user in prison? I don't care. Give them the IV drug and put them in their room. I don't care. I don't mean to be cold. I'm not being cold. It's like you're not helping this person by keeping them in jail, and you're not helping society because you're sending us a bill every month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and keeping our taxes unnecessarily high. Screw you.
Take that money and build out really, really state-of-the-art
Treat it healthcare.
rehab.
Treat it like healthcare.
And everybody that's in there for just cannabis in general is just silly. Just all the money we
really
pay
good
for that.
doctors.
It's criminal. It's
Yeah.
not silly. It's criminal.
Yeah.
It's a
You're
human right. If you look at it's my belief the war, because this is what no one looks at. When you look at the war on drugs, we look at America. And you look at the inner cities and the disproportionate effect on black and brown people, which is 100% true.
Yeah.
But forget America. The war on drugs, let's go to Mexico and the rise of the cartels and the violence that's going on down there. That's our drug war. Mm-hmm. You go down to, I served in Central America. I enlisted in 89, I came back from Panama in end of 93. All that stuff, the cocaine and all the drug shit going violence. My friend, got on mission shot. The drug war. Right. We are talking about the greatest human rights disaster I would say America's ever been a part of. On par with slavery. I'm just talking about the number of dead motherfuckers around the world because of the prohibition on drugs, Schedule I, the war on drugs. We have killed way more people by the war on drugs than would have happened just naturally through drug use. It's insane what's going on, and it's about money. Yeah. You look at the billions and billions and billions we pay in enforcement, and this is the end of the day. I remember saying this in Narcos. It's so true. At the beginning of Narcos, when they're he's talking about one of the detectives. They're like cockroaches. You cannot eliminate drug demand. If the demand's there, the drugs are going to get there. So what are we doing? What are we doing? It's like local control. Yeah, well, it's like local control on cannabis. We don't want cannabis in our community. Sorry to tell you, there's cannabis in your high school, in your grade school, in your middle school. You're not eliminating. There's nothing. It's a misnomer. You have no control.
Correct.
Your wife or your husband probably.
What it is, it's some Karen and Chad protecting the reality that doesn't exist for 99%. Yeah. That's what it is. And they can act all uppity in their upper class community, and the cost of these bad policies don't pan out in those communities. Because you don't see the police at Yale and USC busting down the door to bust them for sniffing drugs. They're not in those communities, right?
They're not.
They aren't.
They're never there.
No.
Those kids get away with murder.
Literally.
Yeah,
Literally.
Yeah. Really. Hey, but honestly, I wanna bring it back. I wanna get some background on you guys. Let's start with Mark. Where are you from, and how did you get where you are?
Born and raised in the Bay Area, Redwood City, Foster City, San Mateo, Antioch in the early '90s. Got to Sacramento in '99, just as I started high school. Foothill Farms. And then went into the Marine Corps at 17 years old. Turned 18 in boot camp, 19 in Fallujah, Iraq, and was home a week before my 21st birthday for my second deployment.
That's the real shit right there.
Yeah.
Bro.
So I mean, it was a quick time, you know. And if I would have known the economy was going to fall in 08, I got out the end of 07, I'd be at about 19 years right now. But I got out. Took me a while. I struggled. Was drinking a fifth of vodka a day when I got out, thinking that was the legal, okay thing to do. As I went to school and went to the gym, but one day my body, I just felt something was wrong with my body. So I went and got some blood work done. And that same day, or a few days later, a friend called me and asked me to come help him with some plants up in Willits. And so I went up there. I drove the 3.5 hours up there, helped him tying up plants and stuff. Hadn't been around cannabis in about 5.5 years. And at that time, the doctor called me. So I answered my phone, and he's like, "Hey, you got to stop drinking. You're gonna, And I was like, "Well, doc, what's the issue?" And he goes, "Your pancreas. You're gonna have pancreatitis." And I was like, at 22 years old, like, what's that, doctor? And he goes, "You're 22, impotency." And I was like, oh, check, right?
Yeah. Talking to man.
Right then, I'm like, I'm smoking. Look at getting this phone call in plants. I ain't been around 5.5 years. I loved weed back in the day. Right. You know what I mean? I started smoking when I was 12 in the Bay Area. Yeah. Strict spammer weed. Some of these viewers might not know anything about it. I was talking to some young kids recently, and they were like, "What? Huh?" Had to pull it up on Google, show them a brick, and they were like, "You smoked that?" And man, that's all you had.
Yeah, no
what
choice.
What do you mean you smoked that?
Got you
no
fucking
choice.
lit, though.
Right. You got right.
You don't know what got you lit up, but yeah.
And then being in the Bay, finding somebody that had some indoor, right, as a young kid, and then being like, okay, that's some good, right? $20 a gram, okay. Yeah. And then I smoked from 12 till a month, 2 months before I went to the Marine Corps. I knew I was going in, had to clean up. And one day I was just like, I'm done. All right, I got, you know what I mean? Next step, got to do something. And went in the Corps. Got out, like I said, was drinking a lot, found that out, started smoking again. Shit was expensive back then. Like I said, the first pound I ever bought was $27.50 for a pound outdoor. It was some roll, right? People still ask for it.
The good old days. Everyone homeschooled.
Right? People said, man,
hippies had money.
Yeah, right.
The hippies had money.
Yeah. So that was and then I started growing for myself. I needed to, right? It was too expensive. Started growing for myself. Eventually got 3 acres up in Lincoln and started doing 100-gallon pots, like 90 something of them, keeping under that number to just throw your hands up and be like, hey, I got a script.
I'm so sorry.
Whoops.
Yep.
And that's what I did. So after a few years of that, it was, all right, how can I start? I'm already helping out all my friends that are veterans and family, right, giving them stuff. So how can I do this more? And so I was like, I got to start something. And you guys are about my age, so it was Angie's List. 20 years ago when Angie's List commercial started, you were like, who the hell's Angie's List? Yep. Like, you knew, right? 20 years now, you're like, okay, she's trustworthy. So I said, you got to start something. And so I said, what am I going to do? I called a friend who owned a local retail shop in Sacramento, and I said, hey, this was back 215 days. Hey, you check in the patient. I'll check proof of service, and I'll give them what I got, what I'm growing, concentrates I was making, capsules I was making. Just give it. And so I started doing that, Meds for Vets, January 2015. The first and third Tuesday of the month, you'd come into the retail shop. They would check your recommendation, come in the back, out, check proof of service. It was 10 veterans that were just coming through the shop during that time, the first month, first event. By the fourth event, we had 75 people hanging out in the parking lot, smoking, joking, kicking it. And my buddy was like, hey, you're going to get me shut down. Get them. They can't be on my property. They can't be smoking on me.
Yeah, like
I went outside. I said, everybody, go next door. Get off the property. Go to that property. I wasn't gonna kick them all out, right? So then I realized it was the camaraderie, the fellowship, right? Cannabis, you need it. You need it as a medicine. Don't run out of it, right? But in California, you got it, or you can find, right? So it was the camaraderie that people were looking for. So I was like, all right, we got to start getting people together, like throwing little gatherings. At the same time, you guys know the sessions that started back then, right? Them things started blowing up. So eventually, right, I couldn't afford and I didn't have it all, right, to give all that once it grew and grew. So I would go to the sessions and introduce myself and let people know what I was doing, giving out free stuff. Like, can you donate anything? Yeah. And so then that's how people in the community knew me, right? And then they saw where it was going, right? There's always question of what's going on. You really donating this stuff? And it's like, look, come to the event. Like, I just ask. I'll ask once or twice, and I tell brands, hey, we're doing this. We've been doing this. please, you know what I mean? There's a few of us doing this. So please reach back out, hit us up, and I'm going to get you in contact with who you got to get in contact to get it where you got to get it, right? In the metric side, who you got to talk to. I don't like the third, fourth party people talking. It gets too muddy. Yep. So just license holder, talk to license holder, get the donations where they got to get, and get them out. But
that's badass.
Yeah,
cool. I remember Weed for Warriors back in the sessions days. Do you know Apollo Dabs?
Yes, sir.
Right. He used to rep you guys.
Us. He was my VP for a number of years. He's my brother. That's family.
That's why I remember Weed for Warriors.
Apollo's family. I'm gonna see him. He's gonna come over on Saturday for a pig roast at the house. Nice. You guys are invited. Please come. A friend, another veteran. His farm almost burnt down up in Reading a few weeks ago. Had livestock and was like, I've raised pigs and helped him slaughter, you know what I mean, do all that stuff. So he was like, Mark, you want all my chickens? And I was like, I'll take some chickens. He said, I'm going to bring 26. And no, don't bring me 26 chickens.
I can't eat all of that.
So he had to, so some of the animals he got rid of, some he slaughtered. And so he's like, hey, let's do this little roast. And I said, let's do it. Awesome. So we've done them on my Traeger before. So we're doing a little roast with some veterans and some of their families and stuff on Saturday coming over.
That's dope.
It's cool. It's we've been doing this a long time, and there's been veterans that we've been helping for a long time, and that have become family, like Joshua. You know what I mean? So
you guys built a real community of veterans.
Yes, that's what connects. Being a vet connects right away, right? And then we come from every walks of life after that, right? Yeah. A to Z. But we connect on, hey, we went through some shit, you know what I mean? And that's still why, but the respect.
You guys are counseling each other too. Like, some of the older Vietnam vets are fucking talking through the Fallujah vet or the Iraq vet.
Everything changes, right? And so it's nobody's coming up and saying, hey, I need help with this. They're hearing at the events that we throw now, the SB34 events at the retail stores, veterans are showing up early and hanging out and talking, right? Bullshitting, kicking it. And that's the camaraderie, fellowship, and through that they're going, hey, what are you saying? What do you got? Who can I talk to about VA loans or care or
disability
or getting a hold of somebody or getting their DD 214 printed out or whatever, right? And so that's how it happens. And
that's cool.
Yeah, I mean,
that's great.
It's an amazing thing.
Recently, we've had people in the community, social workers come out, and they come out to the event and say, hey, who needs help? I can help you process your Social Security, process your thing. Yeah. So I think it's just
taking it another step right there, coming to you.
Right, and I think it's and that's happened down at AHS in West Hollywood, and I think a couple of things up here. It's really fun to see. I mean, that's the rewarding part. I mean, I'd be honest, when we go to these events, I'll be driving. I go from Vegas, and I got to drive to San Diego, or I got to drive to Lompoc, 6-hour drive. So I'll leave like 2 a.m. Yeah, and I get in like a couple hours before our event at the 10. I'm just like, I'm just like, why? And literally, it doesn't cease. When you have 100 veterans there, and you're talking, and there's crying, and you get moms. And I just had a vet come up to me in Hollywood, and he said, man, I just want to show you what my wife, who's also a vet, is painting. And she's painting these beautiful pictures because she didn't paint before she started medicating with the cannabis you're giving away, right? Wow. You guys are giving away. And so he goes, I just want to let you know you're affecting lives in a positive way beyond you even know, right? Yeah. And we hear that. And so that's what, it's that paying it forward. I think, I've said it before, paying it forward. One thing you have is survivor's guilt. In a lot of cases, you lose friends, you lose family members, or people you think like Joshua.
Why them, not me?
You get home, exactly, and and so I think that this helps veterans connect and pay it forward to help vets. And I think I always thought it was captured beautiful in Saving Private Ryan. At the end, when he's at the cemetery, he turns to his parents. Did I do well, right? And what he was saying is, did I? Because at the when his friends died, did he? Did he, make something of himself so it wasn't a wasted, it should have been them, me, that feeling he had. So I think that captured it, I think, pretty beautiful, and I think that's what Weed for Warriors really gives.
Yeah, you guys probably have a full-blown, I can imagine situations like they meet at your event, they exchange numbers, they get really close, one of them ends up at a real tough, low spot, calls one of the guys and he talks him back up to a high spot. And that is that's huge. I mean, you're saving lives at that point. You know what I mean? That's heavy. Dude.
We probably all both spend nights on the phone with people. You know what I mean? And that's just, we've been, you know what I mean? We've all gone through our stuff and we're here. There's somebody here. There's always is. and getting the resources right. The resources are hard, but they're there. You just got it. They're not on a silver platter by any means.
Yeah, I could also see like a veteran that comes back from war. He can't relate to anybody in his family no more. Can't relate. I mean, he could, but not on that like deep level.
Yep.
And then he doesn't know many veterans, or some of the veterans he knows are square.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Then he goes to your event like, this is my people.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Just
Like,
like
there
that.
you fucking are. Holy shit.
And I think the best question is this real? What do you
Is
guys?
this real?
What's the rat? I get that all the time in Southern California. I go, dude. None of my friends believe. You mean you just go get free weed and they don't ask you for shit? And I think that's the biggest thing. And so I think it's listen. I always say, think about this. People, what do you need free weed? A veteran, an eighth of flower, let's just say an average eighth. Let's take preferred at $35. I saw at Sanctuary.
Yeah.
Okay. You're almost at $1,200. You're about $1,150, $1,170, $30 a month. 100% disabled Vegas, $3,000. So you're basically saying to medicate with an eighth a day, that's 3 joints, basically, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And is going to cost you a third of your income. That's just not realistic. So you want to know why the black market is 80% of the market? That right there, right?
Exactly.
And that's what's wrong with 64, but that's another question. And then the good thing about dosing here, when you look at dosing, you remember that program the federal government had from NIDO? They'd send those tin cans out to some of the old timers. They were doing 8 to 10 joints a gram. So the actual federal dosing was almost 3 times as much as an eighth. So now you start telling for a medical patient to substitute opiates, which we're saying are less addictive, less deadly. A medical patient to substitute for psych meds that have suicidal ideation, meaning it makes you think of offing yourself. And I can affirm I have a suicide attempt, survival. That's what happened to me, right? Instead of drinking alcohol, I need to be high. I'm sorry, but it's better to be high, get up at 8 and smoke a joint and go to bed at 12 and smoke a joint, and your family's going to like you a hell of a lot more, right?
Totally.
Right? And so I think from that perspective, when we look at this thing, there's a lot of misnomers between what we've sold this as just a recreational smoke a little bit, and you got the doctor saying it's good. You want high taxes. Well, doctors didn't go to economic school, right? So they don't understand the high taxes isn't preventing shit anyone. It's actually causing health problems. And you say you belong to the American Medical Association, who supported the drug war. There's a lot of hypocrisy in this whole thing, right?
Yes.
And then when we when we look at this, from the medical patient, this is about happiness. This is about community. This
Quality
is
of life.
Quality of life.
Yeah.
The liberty, pursuit of happiness, right? Which is embedded in our Declaration of Independence, embedded in our Constitution. This is what we're about, right? And the fact that in America we're supposed to be free, you are making it so difficult to
Be happy.
and we have to ask ourselves why. And there's a lot of views on it. We'll have our own views, but it's just, regardless of your view, this ain't what freedom is. This isn't America. This isn't the country that we believed exist or we want to exist. And so we've got to fight for it.
I agree.
You're right.
I agree. And you guys are doing a lot of good work.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout
Alex
out.
need to fight a little more there.
Dude, I
Come on, Alex, what the fuck are you doing, man? Let's
I
fucking
know.
do it.
Just provide do some rolling. We're good.
we know
these guys.
You guys are fighting though. We know the industry right now
Right.
is hurting. Right.
It
Like
is.
I said, we all know, and people, it's not going good.
And it's not going to be good for patients. I mean, the best way to provide access is to have a healthy, robust industry.
Yeah.
Right. I
Because
agree.
when you guys are fat, guess what? Those donations get real fat.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That
Deals
support
get
gets
better.
real fat.
Yeah.
And it's just at some point we have to admit Prop 64 has been a total failure.
Absolutely.
Sean, you were trying to shout out something before
I was going to shout out Mark. I think, I just said,
Hey,
shout out Mark,
Hey, Mark, shout out to Mark.
Mark. That's all I've ever been.
Mark is by far, I think, the MVP. He does so much, just does the job and does the work and gets shit done. And he's really good at dealing with, I'm an emotional high and low myself guy, right? So I shut down my emotions. I don't want to feel my emotions. And Mark is just stable, always there and consistent. And so I think people learning who Mark is awesome. He's without him, we wouldn't be where we're at.
That's really cool.
That's awesome.
Good job, Mark.
It's someone's got to do it, right?
Someone's gotta do it. Yeah.
I just say if I stop answering my phone today, shit ain't getting from point A to point B.
No, it takes.
And so I mean, literally, like I took a 3-day or 4-day weekend this weekend, Labor Day weekend. Went up with the family camping. I had no reception in a long time.
Yeah,
you know, and you guys know, is running a business and doing what you're doing, like to be away, you know. But I did. I stayed away, and
good.
I wasn't on it much. I think I called a couple times to check in because we had an event. We had an SB34 event in with I think it was down in Patterson with Cali Kosher. They've been helping us throw some events.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, we do a lot. Yeah, you can go on the website, WFWproject.org, events page. They're all listed with all the information's on each flyer with what you need and times and how many bags. Pay attention to that. Depending on where we're at, the bag count, meaning how many veterans can get free cannabis, varies, right? Like I said, donation based. Sometimes SoCal companies can't drive it up north, right? They're not going to spend $1,000 to drive some stuff up north. Why would they do that? They're already kicking the bucket.
They're already losing,
right? So we're thankful, and we do what we can and get it where we can within the parameters of the legalities, the red tape that we all play in. Yeah. And
but you know what's cool about that angle is it's more preferred by any business owner in the industry. If your shit's about to expire for some reason, or you have excess, or for some reason, like, this is an outlet that I think everybody will never can get behind and will never deny.
Please.
And if anybody has, like, you know, sick children type
on
of,
that note, SB34 is for any patient, right? So all these retail stores, everybody wants to help, right? But it's a logistical thing. You guys know retail stores or deliveries are busy. You guys are running businesses and got to keep your doors open. And so to do more labor, to have somebody do labor that you're going to pay for free, right? To not get any money off it, it's a money issue. It's a accounting issue. And so and we can't really do much because we don't have licenses, right? Your people are still doing it.
See, but like what he said, if they allow us to get fat, then that extra person that just manages all our charity, that's a no-brainer, dude.
Not only that, but listen, you're able to, your bud tenders are better off, your trimmers are better off. Remember the road, and this is no one's talked about this. We talk about how tough it is. What about the absolute economic devastation of Prop 64? When you look at it, remember the community, the big events we used to have, where, you know, the robust trimmer community. Everybody participated in a healthy community because the margins were there.
The sessions were dope.
All those people are unemployed. Most of those were small business. They were from poor and working class communities. It wasn't some rich kids, but it wasn't it
wasn't a bunch of them.
It wasn't the Palisades kids coming in and doing it, right? They were customers of anything, right? And all that has been gone. And if you talk about transfer of wealth from cannabis, from the community to the small corporatization, it's disgusting. And it's a case study on what's wrong with America. That's why I say what's wrong with cannabis is a case study of what's wrong with our country.
Right. That's it's unfortunate, really.
And it's and the sad part is how many people went along with it without even being glaringly concerned. And there was plenty of people talking about the issues and concerned about the issues, but you see how it was. People were used to pass something that wasn't in their best interest.
Right.
You know, hey, this is about this. This is about no, it's not. It's not.
Like you said earlier, follow the money.
Yeah.
Follow the money. And that's
what's a way to try to fix what we've done with Prop 64? Even if you replace it, can you replace it at this point?
So you have to. So the problem with 64 is the following: you can change it with a 2/3 vote. Getting a 2/3 vote in the House is almost impossible, especially when you consider that. Remember what I talked about. A lot of people in the industry aren't actually for improving it. They like if you're a dispensary owner in LA and you have a $12 million valuation. Prop 64 hasn't traded you badly, right?
Right.
And so there are people who, by the way, have the lobbying arms and the organizing help that they can, affect. They're going to block any real necessary change, like they try to do with SB 11A6 and turn it into an ability to ban delivery of a legal good on a public road to a private residence of someone disabled who needs it. That's some sick fucking shit.
That's fucking ridiculous.
Right? I don't care where you stand. That's some sick. Where do you stop then? Because we don't see the 99% of the shit you're really doing, right? We all need to be concerned. It's got to be an initiative because there's no way you're going to get the things that need to happen. You need to lower taxes. You need to absolutely gut the stupid regulations, and you've got to increase the sales points. You can't have 840 damn dispensaries in the state, brick and mortar dispensaries in the state, because guess what? We have 45 million people in the state. Colorado, for 5.7 million people, has over 1,100 dispensaries. We have to have almost 10,000 dispensaries just to equate to the same dispensary count as in Colorado. Now, you can adjust. Some people say we have 1,100 because they look at delivery, although delivery is mostly, a lot of them are connected, so that's not really increasing access or competition. But we don't have the economies to scale where you can drive down profits but have good profit margins still, right? That's a huge issue. And the problem is we have an embedded cannabis, community that doesn't want to change it now. We have the prohibitionists and local control people who don't want to change it because they don't want to go back to 215 or anything associated to alcohol. If they could outlaw alcohol, they would do it today, right?
Yeah.
And they don't want to learn anything new.
No.
Mm-hmm. They just got their grasp on what
they moved from LA in their white flight to a GUR in Carlsbad, and they're out in Ventura and they're very conservative areas, and they don't have to change. They don't want to change, and if anything, they feel insulted you're asking them to change.
Yeah.
And you see that. I mean, the sad part is, look at the cannabis community, right? You look at some of these very privileged communities in the Bay Area banning delivery, yet they have cannabis. Why? It's about money. It's a tax and regulate. A few people went to the government and said, we can increase your tax coffers, right? Mm-hmm. And so you partner taxes with a few small number of owners. And now they've created a partnership, and they get to run the show, and it's a cluster.
Yeah.
Damn.
I was going to say, if they do a bad enough job and squeeze out a lot of these smart operators right now, they just might creep back into the unregulated market.
Well, that's what they're going to do. They're taking the talented black market guys, and they're going to go right back to the black market. And listen, I love the black market. We need the black market.
Yeah, for sure.
But listen, bottom line, it would be better off if we didn't have a black market, because that means a black market's not necessary. You found, in economic terms, equilibrium.
Yeah.
Where demand meets supply in a legal market, everyone's happy, go the hell away. Because, again, you are not controlling this.
Totally.
Right. It's happening whether you want it or not. So isn't it better to all be in the regulated market where we invite participation and the barriers to entry are a lot smaller, so families can start businesses, people get involved, and the meritocracy weeds them out. Not everyone's going to succeed.
Exactly.
They don't get weeded out because you have a balance sheet that can outlive that guy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're right.
You have to. your credentials have to be. You got to be a good person, and you got to grow good weed. You know what I mean? At that
you
point,
just got to provide a service the consumer wants to buy. And right now they're buying what? THC, and Mark hates this. They're buying THC and price.
Right, yeah.
That's exactly it.
Right, you guys know as flower growers, you're like, dang, what are the test scores, right? Test scores, that's what
Test
you're waiting on.
scores are all
COA.
Price down here, THC up here.
Yeah.
That's what they're looking for.
And then
Which the market will change. Like, you guys want to smoke you guys know they smoke good shit on the show. Everyone that comes on smoke good stuff.
Yeah, and that's where I was going with that, though, Sean, was the thing about the weed industry before it went commercial.
Right.
Was the community kind of dictated who was successful, because either they're not going back to that shitty dealer that they had that wasn't a good person, but he grew good weed, but he's a shitty guy. And then you'd always go back to that one cool ass dealer that always had good weed. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that's gonna push who the fuck stays in business and doesn't stay in business.
Let's take Glass House, right? I mean, there's already that attempt to block, like they shouldn't be in. And I'm not giving an opinion one way or the other, right? And so I think from that perspective, I don't know how successful that's going to be, right? Because at the end of the day, we're increasing the market share. So all these stoners are new. They didn't experience that 215 market, right? They're going to a captive market in the dispensary and they're buying weed. And do they really know the difference between brands? Or are they going in saying, hey, what do you got that would get me high for $20?
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's what's happening. And so how do you differentiate? And I think I don't think the problem is you don't try to do anything. Let the market do it. Guess what happened with alcohol, right? And wine. You have your Thunderbird, and yet you got your $500, $1,000 bottles you can buy, and you have a whole industry up in Napa and Sonoma, in Santa Barbara, and Temecula that have made a tourist industry of going to see wineries. Imagine if Preferred's Farm in YOLO, right?
Yeah.
You could have people out there, and they could have a lounge out there and smoke, and you could curate them, and they could buy stuff and go home. Now you have a direct to sales. If we're looking at the initiative, we have an initiative we put together, and one of the solutions is, okay, they look at it as a density, right? Right now, some places are 1 in 12, 1 in 8. San Francisco, I think we're at 1 in 50 throughout the state. Okay, way too high. We need more dispensaries, right? What that density is, Ting put a bill forward 1 in 15,000 a couple years ago, and that's a number that most people, okay, I can live with 1 in 15,000. Because if you're in LA or San, you're already there in a lot of these places, right? And we can live in 1 in 15,000. But I think one of the ways you can get around, the economists say it needs to be a lot, like alcohol is like 1 in 1,500 and 2,500 in some places. We don't want it to go there. But from the perspective, I think one is direct sales. And I think when you look at Origins Council, which is a trade association for the small farmers, they put together that farmers market bill, right? And I think those are things, if we get in the initiative, we can cobble together a group of cannabis people and bring a coalition together to attempt to run this. It's going to take money, and that's the big hurdle we have to overcome.
No, that'd be a great initiative, because that is the future. A lot of people are moving to that direct-to-consumer, direct sales, brand,
Listen, and imagine you capturing as the grower, and I don't, maybe how does that look? I mean, I don't think a lot of people are going to go, I'm going to go up to, Yolo County to go buy my weed today versus going to the dispensary or delivery down the street. I think it's going to be more, hey, let's go, touring today at the cannabis farm.
Let's go treat ourselves.
But not only that, right now, farmers are always on the low end of agriculture, right? They get paid the least to get screwed. And unless you become a big corporate friend, the subsidy game, right? Which, by the way, we know damn well cannabis ain't getting there anytime soon, right?
Not
soon. And so the question becomes, it's a great way to capture, a margin that you're giving away basically to regulators and middlemen who are adding no value, and that's the distributors and all these people who touch the plant before it gets to the consumer. We're under 215. It went straight from usually that grower or his sales guy to you at a sesh or an event, or just from knowing them, and the power lied in the patient and the power lied in the grower. Now the power lies in neither in 64, and that is your problem. It doesn't represent the people. It represents a few interests.
And went from community to corporate.
You know what? So my, being a hedge fund manager, and I worked in the hedge fund world and finance world after I got out of Central America, I understand the negative view of corporate, and I've slammed it publicly. I've talked about it for a long time. But at the end of the day, corporate America is just a legal entity, right?
Right.
It goes back to what you said, which is, there has to be a culture that sets a set terms of expectations, right? And I think that is what happened. There was a set of how you were supposed to behave, and it was for the community. And whether you believed it or not, you did it because you had to for business, right?
Dude, yeah.
And I think that is what we need to return to, because at the end of the day, we control corporate, how you spend your money, but people aren't disciplined in making sure how I spend my money, who do I want to support, and through that type of action, corporations aren't the problem. It's how long are we going to let ourselves be, hoard out for people who don't give a shit about us and just play as a cog in a machine.
And that doesn't only apply for the weed industry.
That's America.
That applies for fucking everything, dude. Damn. So we're not in charge.
No, we are in charge of ourselves. Yeah.
But as for the people making laws and regulations and all of that, it almost seems like the smaller majority, I guess, makes all that.
They do,
happen.
right? It's the Ferguson effect. Ferguson, where the gentleman, the black American, got shot by the police. And you look at the community, it's predominantly black and brown community. Yeah. Yet it was like an all-white city council on all-white police force and all white. Like, how the fuck does that happen? Yep. What happens, because most people are disenchanted with government process, they're marginalized, and we can go, I'm not an expert in that, but I mean, it's, just basic understanding is that. And so we've detached our citizenry from government, and it has allowed the ones who best organize, lawyers, representing moneyed interests. But something we saw, and this is what we saw. At the end of the day, we affected change, and it was through numbers. We marched 50, 100 vets plus, constantly, committee after committee. They came on their own accord, and they challenged, and it worked. It worked because this is what a senator said to me. He goes, Sean, you guys are coming in with people we never see, the people in our community. They never see. If people show up in numbers, they are scared. We will affect change. And that's why I think it's so important. We got to get back to organizing. That's something the cannabis community did. They could bring numbers together. And we can't do that anymore. And I don't think that's by accident.
No.
They don't want these events, and they don't want, because you're bringing a community together that had that magical feeling that this is what happiness is. These are what good people are. This is what we should look like.
Right. I agree with that.
Damn, let's organize now.
Yeah.
It's like juice. Like, I'm ready. Tonight to the party.
We're not going home after this, Alex. We're going to start writing shit down right now.
I'm like, damn, I've been slacking. I'm like, we need to be doing more.
Well, you know, hey, think about it from self-interest, right? It's like you said, I mean, no one's doing well right now, right? And it's not going to change. And we were talking to a few dispensaries. I don't know if this is a thing, but listen, we're going to go into a recession here. They're going to keep raising interest rates. People are going to have less cash. You went from a stimulus-driven economy where everyone had cash or get $1,000 a week in California to people can't pay their bills. And does this sales decline even further? And I think there's a risk because I think it will go to the black market. I think people will smoke a little bit less. But it's going to be interesting to see what these tax proceeds look like going forward. And I think it could help that, right? Because nothing helps organizing more than self-interest. And so the question is, people, we get this, is like, is this initiative for real? Can you guys really run this? Is this going on? People are hopeful, but they're guarded because, listen, there's a lot of, I think there was 99 potential initiatives last year. I mean, it's a lot of smoke and mirrors and nothing ever gets done. So I think if you show them that there is a pathway, that we can do it.
But there needs to be that one leader that everyone follows. Right now, it seems like, I mean, there's Mark. Yeah. But, if you look at it, like, there's no real, like, Martin Luther King of our day right now. There's no JFK or whoever, like, our parents, or they always had this one guy representing a huge community of people.
Right.
Not on a federal level.
Right.
Nowadays, it's like Elon Musk. That's the only guy that normal guy.
Well, Joe, I think anyone who challenges the status quo and does so on a platform, and Elon Musk being who he is has a platform. Joe Rogan has a platform.
Yes, Joe Rogan too.
But the problem is they all get marginalized because you get people like Andrew Tate to come in, and it's about fame sinking and shock. Their DJ used to be the shock DJ when I grew up. Say crazy things on the radio. Right. Now you get, I get told Howard Stern, but he's tame compared to some of these guys.
He's so tame
now. So mainstream.
So,
but I remember, and so I think the question is we're in a community, we're in a time when it's hard to differentiate. And it's hard to differentiate because, to be honest with you, we get this a lot. Well, there's a lot of veteran organizations. No, there's no veteran organizations out doing what we're doing at the scale we're doing. And no, sorry, there's not, right? There's a lot of people on Instagram talking about it. There's a lot.
I really think there would be by now.
It's a lot of work. I'll be honest with you. Mark and I tease Mark because he works out. I'll leave 2 a.m. from. I go, hey, brother, leave it in the morning just to know, like, hey, I left
like
2
I
a.m. in the morning.
Sean's driving from Vegas to all the SoCal events. I'm from north of Sacramento to all the Northern California events. My 2015 truck's got 212,000 miles on it.
My 2019 Subaru.
Money. You know what I mean? Like, we put it in.
And I was driving from Sacramento under SB 34. I was coming up from Sacramento every week in the car and driving, and it's just
time. It's you guys know it's the work and effort you got to put into what you want to put it into,
right?
And this has been what we've wanted to put it into because of back to the logistical nightmare, but at the events, the laughs and smiles, the thank yous, the stories we hear. That's what is like motivates me to we'll keep dealing with the bullshit, because I have to, because these the veterans are relying, they need it, and it's not
It'd be nice if one of the veterans just randomly has a fucking airplane. And you guys start flying.
No, I was going to say, when we start we got to organize. The first thing I say is, leave the guns in the car, You got to leave your knives in the car.
We don't need them.
Leave it all out.
We don't need them right now.
You're walking through metal detectors going to the Capitol. Everyone be aware. Drugs, leave everything outside. No weed. No reason to. They don't care, but leave it outside.
I'll let you know if we need them, but we don't need them. We shouldn't need them at all.
We walked right outside after winning something out of the state capitol, and somebody lit up like right away, and of course the wind's blowing right back into CHP's face. And they came out and were like, what are y'all doing? And we're like, we're sorry, we apologize, we'll go across the street.
we're pre-celebrating.
Shit's legal.
Whoops. Damn.
We do a lot of that, and that's the other thing is, listen, I think part of the issue too is everyone's so busy just putting food on the table. with their hustle. We've gutted community as a country. Religion. I'm not a very religious person at all, but that used to at least bind you, whether you agreed with it or not. Right? We used to have things that bound us together, and we don't anymore. It's chasing your rent payment. It's chasing your car payment. It's chasing, and you medicate with the Kardashians and that reality show, and and I think that's part of the problem. And I think detaching, disconnecting is a very difficult thing to do, but doing it is, I think, would help. Yeah. We've got to disconnect from this insanity at some point, or we're going to kill ourselves.
You're right.
It's coming or it's not. I don't know. I can't make a call on it right now. Either global warming, fucking China and the U.S., U.S. and Russia. I don't fucking know what's coming.
Or maybe just some dystopian future with no hope.
I don't know, but all I know is we just need good weed.
That's all
right now. But other than that, though, Sean, where are you from?
I grew up in Los Angeles.
Okay.
I grew up in L.A. I was in Northridge. I was I grew up, my dad was a small business owner. He was an accountant, CPA. I went to Our Lady of Lourdes. I went to Dearborn, got kicked out, went to Our Lady of Lourdes where the nuns beat me. I was a smart ass. And so I literally had a 7.7 and a very high SAT score. And when I went to a college prep school, Crespi in the Valley, I just wanted to get away from my parents and school and go out on my own. And 17, what do I do? And my dad was in Vietnam, and a lot of my family members. And I said, "Fuck, I'll join the military." So I went down. I was 17, and they said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to jump out of planes." And this was the end of the Cold War. This was '89. I said, "The only thing that's going to get you a guarantee like that is go infantry." I was like, "Fuck it, I'll do it." And I did it and joined at 17. And my mom was like, "I'm not signing that shit." And my dad goes, "Here, I'll sign and get the hell out."
Oh shit! Go what?
And we have a great relationship now. But he was I joined in '89, and then I was like, "Where do you want to go?" I said, "I want to go to Vicenza, Italy, or Hawaii." And they said, "Where do you not want to go? Korea or Fort Drum or Alaska?" I didn't want to go. I hate cold weather. And they sent me to Panama.
Panama.
Yeah.
Wow. That's Central America.
Right, yeah.
Wow.
The equator.
It was literally.
Shit.
I'm going to pass it. Calm down. It was down there. So I was there till 93. Very interesting time. Lost a few friends down there. Compartmentalized it all, right? Didn't deal with it when I got out. I was like, money matters. And after walking in the jungle and doing crazy shit, I was like, I need to get an office job with an air conditioning. So I got suddenly motivated for school. So my wife and I literally drove back from where we got out in Alabama to here, out to Sac. And I went to American River for a couple years. Yeah,
I went to American River.
There we go. So I went to American River School, and I applied to all the UC schools, and I thought I was going to go to Davis, and Berkeley called me and said, "Hey, you got in?" I was like, I got into Berkeley. No. So I went down to Berkeley. This was what, 94. Went down to Berkeley and went to business school there, undergrad business school. Got out and then was working at Ernst & Young my last year there as an intern. Went full time because this is back when like Cisco was going public and all this stuff. And they were like, "Can you work during the year?" I was like, "Yeah," because I worked my whole time in college with my wife. I was married at her at 19. We got married in Panama. We started dating in high school. We were high school sweethearts, and so. Did that, ended up working at JP Morgan as a trader, investment banking analyst, and then worked in the hedge fund community for almost 2 decades. Wow. And then some stuff that came up about some stuff in Panama that happened started affecting me. It came up some political news regarding some presidential race, and opened up that box that I never dealt with. Ended up to where I started self-medicating on a lot of things. They put me on pharma, which led to hard drugs, and I was doing everything and just acting like a dumbass. And we all got laid off in 2009 because of the hedge funds. So you had a bunch of traders who had cash, right. And literally between 2009 to 2014, I was out of control. I had a suicide attempt in 11 at 3 5150s, which is when you show up at the hospital, they go, "You're not going home. You're being observed." Right? And it was all self-care because I peed. When I went to the VA in La Jolla, it was like, "You hit all 17 drugs we tested for. How the fuck? What are you doing?" Right? Wow. And then I'm a smart ass because I had private care. I was like, "What are you talking, like 5 doctors?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I was having fun. I'm going out partying tonight with a buddy." And they just looked at me and said, "No, you're not going out tonight. How would you like to stay for observation?" And I said, "Why would I want to stay for observation at a VA? I came here to pacify my dad because my insurance got canceled." So he said, "I just gave him the ID card." He says, "Because voluntary observation is less impactful on you than involuntary observation." Oh, So that's when it clicked for me, and I went upstairs, and this was in 2013. And when I got out, I immediately called Dr. Sue because I saw the over-medication of our vets. It clicked in me what was going on. My wife smuggled in a bunch of THC pills. I got a lot of the ward high. Still friends with some of those guys today. They come, to our drops, do stuff like that. And then literally when I got out, started working with Dr. Sue Sisley, who was the doctor at the University of Arizona, who was working for a study on PTSD and cannabis, whole flower cannabis, not this design, and was working with MAPS in that time. And I started working with her, advocating, working hard. And then what happened, started Veterans for Dr. Sue Sisley, met Ricardo Paredes, who was a vet there. And we were working with Sue, and then it literally turned into she got fired. And I said that. I remember she was really upset. She got fired because she's politically active. She's like, hey, the research and advocating pissed off some of the conservative Republicans in Arizona. They fired her. And I said, this is the best thing that ever is going to happen to you. She told me to shut the fuck up. And literally the next day she was in CNN. She was with Sanjay Gupta. She was on, BBC talking about this squelching research into PSD or cannabis. It blew up, and she became, who she is. And then I worked with her, and then was on CNN Weeds 3. I was the vet on CNN Weeds 3 with her, and did Weedy Kit with a lot of the vets out there who work with her. And then Ricardo and I met Kevin at a Denver High Times Cup in 2015, right before Weeds was good. And Ricardo wanted to come over to help Kevin, and we did. We shut down the Vets for Dr. Sue Sisley because we'd just gotten her study funded. Not we, but the community got her study funded. So we're like, what are we going to do? And so we came over to help Kevin. And in 2015, started working with Kevin and the whole crew. There's a bunch of vets doing it. Planned that trip across. Had heard at Mark at this time. Kevin had talked to Mark, and he's like, well, he's doing, he's figuring he had meds for vets. He was doing the very thing Weed for Words was going to do.
They were going in October, November. It was harvest season. I couldn't leave the farm. Y'all have fun.
So and then we got back, and it was literally, I was the business guy, right? I had Kevin, all these guys went around. I was the business guy getting high on psychedelics and ketamine too much, and not wanting to do, and literally growing in my own house. Like I was not an expert grower by any means. I probably paid $6,000 a pound for my weed. I was just had power on full blast, and, didn't care because I was I wasn't doing it for money, right? I was like, this is cool. I'd go out there and it's medicine for me. Yeah. That whole schedule, that grow schedule, put me on a schedule, right? Yeah. And it helped me in the psychedelic part of the piece. I'd been a manic trader that would be up 24/7, worried about the yen collapsing, right? That is not a fun life when you have billions of dollars on the line. It stressed me out. It was not healthy for me. And going from that to growing was such a diametrically, huge difference. And so it helped me. So then Kevin, literally, we got back from DC. Kevin's 100% PTSD veteran, just like us, right? Disabled vet, grunt. And he goes, man, I can't run this thing. It's backstab, vets trying to backstab. People, it's a dirty world, right? People are trying to get ahead and do so, whatever. And so he kind of checked out in terms of taking a back seat, and he asked Mark and I to step up. And I go, I do not want to run the chapters because, again, I don't like it. And Mark said, I got that. And he's like, you do the business shit and make sure we don't go out there. I was like, I can do that. And then it was like just this natural, we loved each other, be in each other's lane, but we helped each other, right? It was like, hey, I need to, okay, well, let's do this. So it wasn't like one of us it was really just a team effort. And I don't think the thing is, I don't think either of us started this to turn it into anything, right? This was something that kept us healthy. Right. Connecting to people. This was something about helping people. It was our therapy, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so that's what I think is magic about it. We've been working together now for too long, almost 7 years, right? And it's like the best partner I've ever had. And it really is just a cool place to be in life at my age, just a little older than Mark, to really be enjoying what you're doing and enjoying the people you're working with. And that's what I love about it.
That's awesome.
I got to give him praise. I can't do the phone calls and the political bullshit and banging your head on the wall and his finesse. I'm going to tell me what to do. I'm going to get it done. Get out of my way. Yeah.
This is how we work. Okay, Mark, this is what we need to do. We need to march in with like 100 vets. Can we make that? Yeah, we can make that happen. Give me the mission. I can accomplish it.
That's the general, right? Gather the troops.
Man,
do it.
And I think people, it's contagious. Because when people come, they go, you guys really aren't doing this for anything but, you're not collecting money from anyone. You're not collecting addresses or emails. Because that's what most of these groups groups do. They go get a bunch of emails and then they lobby like they're representing everyone in that email that sign up for this product and send your email in, right? That's what a lot of these organizations are. They're one or two people. They're in these veteran organizations and they're lobbying, and then they're back in DC playing that lobbying game that benefits them, not the vet, right? And so I think what's magical is we haven't turned it into that we're gathering information or we're about money or something, but but ironically now we've created this brand that has credibility, right? We haven't always done everything perfectly, make mistakes, but in terms of like, hey, this is a good group of people with an issue that people can identify, and they're doing something to fix it, whether you like how they talk or they're loud or they're obnoxious, it doesn't matter. They're our brothers and sisters, right? And they've got points. And so I think that's the magical through I worked in Wall Street where you try to create shit out of nothing and it's vaporware, right? That's what a lot of this bullshit is, right? Here's the exact opposite. We do this with practically no money, right? Like, I'll tell you an example. Mark used to put chapters on, and it'd be like $200-$300, and it would, okay, we're gonna slaughter a pig himself. We're gonna cut it up. We're gonna do that maybe once or twice. Every month. He's like, give me the mission.
But hey, being a Marine, it's the minimal, right? Spaghetti, right? Minimalist. I mean, you don't need. Everybody wants to do this lavish shit and spend hell of money. I ain't got money. But I got 100 people to feed. And I'm going to feed them and show them a good time and give them a bunch of weed to smoke and make it a good time. I don't need no more than that.
And I bet nobody complains about it. They love it.
Oh, they love it. And this is the ironic. There's veteran groups out there going to MSOs going, I need $50,000 an event. And the event is basically a chapter meeting. We're like, this is what's distorted about America. There's no reality in anything going on. It's like, you don't need $50,000 for an event. I mean, we put on our chapter meetings for $322 and a cash and carry and potluck, bring your own, people bring shit, and it's actually 10 times more magical than that $50,000 event. 100%. That's the magic. And by the way, from somebody who chased the money because he thought that's how you escaped, get on Wall Street and be totally miserable, right? And then fall from grace and become like my dad. You were my Wall Street son, and now you're a fucking pothead. What the fuck happened to you, right? Like what? And I think that, perspective is, and through my suicide attempt and through the stuff that's going, and coming, you have that growth that doesn't come unless it's forced. It's like that pressure, and I think that coming out the other side now, you find true happiness when you let go of that anxiety. Like so much, we're talking about this, chasing the money. That's how you get freedom. No, it's not. You become a slave to it.
Right.
And I'm not saying money's not important. Money's important in this country. Healthcare and all that stuff.
Of course.
But you know what? If you don't have that other side, that balance, that that real grounding, you're going to go off the rails.
It'll consume you for sure.
I would say it's family. You need the family on that. Whether it's
define family any way we want.
Whether it's you guys together, it's connections needed. Like your group of boys, your family, or either your wife and kids. For me, and
100%. We have a lot of females who are involved. We got a lot of. We had a transgender chapter leader, very inclusive, very supportive of the idea that we're all veterans, whether you served 2 months and you got injured and got out, or whether you served 20 years or 30 years and got out. And this is another thing about that we have vets. What I love, everyone talks about combat vets, right? And first, not even getting into what's defining it. That's a different story. But like, we have a lady who was basically support for the Navy SEALs out of San Diego working. And she would go overseas and help them, but she was always in support role. She broke her back. She had a serious physical injury in supporting the Navy SEALs, and so now she got opiate addiction, all those issues. And so it's really important that we say it's about inclusivity, because it's the whole spectrum of jobs that are needed to force project to bring whatever change our government wants it to pay, and all those people are sacrificing. So we like to be very inclusive. We don't we don't look at discharges. We have vets who were kicked out from cannabis and don't have honorable discharges. We're not prejudiced against that. Come be with us.
Right.
We're not.
We don't discriminate, like you're saying, against anyone. As long as you got proof of service, something. You know what I mean? And not a picture, you know what I mean? We need some paperwork, ID, something. We're going to be good. We want to help everyone.
Yeah.
You got to have a recommendation and proof of service. Those are for us, proof of service, and for the stores and the SB 34, you have to have a recommendation.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds
That's
like
awesome.
everybody's welcome to the table, man.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And it's community. I mean, the greatest thing is they come with their families. And one of the things we would hear is, listen, this is the only thing my son or brother or dad gets out of the house for. Or
That's
mom.
cool.
They don't go out for anything. They come out and they love coming and connecting. And again, it's the shit talking. It's the fun. I mean, like I saw Mark. I'm like, Mark, you gained some weight, didn't you? And he gets all mad. But I only do it because he would give me shit because I don't work out. I mean, when he was working out, shit, why are you working out? Get your Apple Watch. Let me say, he'd give me shit.
I like to eat.
That's the type of shit you guys built in the military, and then you go back home, and the culture's
don't have
not really the same.
I think,
in the service,
we need to move a little bit back towards that.
In the service, I lived in a hotel, and people go, "What was it like?" I lived in a hotel with all my friends. We drank.
Right.
So we did. If we weren't at work, we drank.
And we drank, and we drank, and
That's
we
all-
drank.
that's all I
and we
did.
drank.
That's
in the
all
service.
you could do.
There was
Right.
I was a young kid, couldn't go at the beginning. Didn't have a car to go nowhere. I could walk to the chow hall, and the 30 packs of MGD were under $10.
You know what?
Every cooler, every floor had a cooler, and hey, we hung out.
party.
Yeah.
What amazed me in the military was seeing these old timers, your NCOs, who chain smoked, was always smelling a JD. And I'm not talking he had a glass. This motherfucker would down a whole, as much JD as you could possibly. He'd be stinking drunk in PT at 4 a.m, and he would lead you on a run and run like a gazelle, and you could not stay up with him. That was the most amazing thing about the military, seeing these old timers who were just like, dude,
That is impressive.
you're
I'd be
powered by
out.
JD.
A lot of people running, just up checking while they're running. You got to keep going. You better don't stop. Don't stop.
Tough Americans.
Dude, it's
really cool.
interesting.
Yeesh.
It's right. It does, and that brings up this whole idea. Oh, you got to live this way or live this perfect way. I said, the guys I remember who got shit done were living the exact opposite way.
You were saying, yeah, they ran into the fucking the mess, not out of it.
Yeah.
That's really cool though, and guys like me and Alex, we really respect you guys'
Yeah,
service.
thank you guys
and
so
all
much for your
have
service.
done.
Yeah.
And whether or not, like you said, 2 months or whatever, the commitment to take the oath alone. Like me, I would never. You know what I mean? But there's people that
a lot
would.
of people are like that, and I don't blame them.
You know, it's fucking. It takes a fucking diehard American that's willing to die for our freedom, as we're fucking playing video games and shit like that.
I
during
think
that
you know what
time.
I think. And this I remember. I got in where a lot of my NCO officers were still from the draft. I think there's something to be said for that for Americans, and I don't think you have to have drafting military. I think we could have a Peace Corps. I think we could have American service where you serve, but you have to bringing people together in that common experience. Because if you look back in the 60s, 70s, and 50s, a lot of the military shows and movies were fucking comedies, MASH.
Right.
And
I
it
watched a lot of
was
MASH.
Operation Petticoat. They made fun of the absurdity, right? Because we all shared it, and we knew that sergeant who was absolutely a lunatic, and we knew the absurdity of just things that defy common sense. But there's reasons for them, and kind of you just go along. Now, if you look at most of the military movie, it's like lone survivor. It's trying to glorify something, right?
Yeah.
And turn into recruiting. So I think in that you talk about the debasing of culture, and I think it starts with shared experiences. And so I hear you
I
that you're
agree
glad
there.
you didn't go, but I think having that shared experience as a community and really taking 18 and 17 and 19-year-olds and taking them away from that coddled protection that mom and dad do and say, you're not that special, sweetheart. You're not that special. Yeah. And that's important because it creates that bonding that happens. Now, do we want everyone joining the Marines and being crayon eaters? Probably not.
I don't know, but to be honest with you, I almost joined the Army at one point. It was like I think 3 or 4 years into college, and shit wasn't really like it wasn't where. But I think that if it was mandatory after high school, I wouldn't have mind have gone. Like,
not only that, but you have listen. There's a lot of jobs in the military. You're not going into combat, right? You're not. Don't go into infantry. Don't become a medic, right? You're not gonna, like that. That's the guys I feel sorry. The guys who go medic in the Navy and go, "What? I'm going to be a medic in the Navy." They get attached to the Marine Infantry Unit. It's like that's the worst thing. Like when I thought I was going to be a medic in the Navy, right?
Wrong place.
Right. And so I think there's jobs, but I think that's where the Peace Corps comes in, right? I mean, get the peaceniks. The people who like I don't want to be in the military. 100%, you know, but give back to community in some organized fashion.
I think Israel does that, right?
A lot of countries
that you gotta
Saudi
enlist
Arabia
for like
does
2
that.
years in the military.
Mandatory service.
Dude,
I say it teaches kids how to wipe their own ass.
That'll make
You know what I'm saying?
our like people strong as fuck.
Right.
It will, and trust me, when we all go through that, the Rainbow Coalition, of all of our differences goes through that and have that shared experience.
Yeah. We're all green.
We can laugh together.
We can laugh
We
together.
can talk about it together, and that's the start of community that we're lacking today because they divide everyone. And that's one of the big problems. Thomas, I want to say it, I forget his name. He was a director. He ended up dying, wrote a book, and he attributed it to a lot of this problem. Is he saw these units in places like Afghanistan and Iraq. He's an embedded reporter, and how tight people come. That wolf pack mentality. That's that tightness. That's very natural. It isn't like it's like we have to have each other's back. We're out here alone. And so and then what he saw was these vets being dumped back in America, where there is back in mostly poor communities, white, black, and brown, right? And there's no support structure. There's no support safety net, and there's no community in terms of anything bringing anyone together. And so it's very isolating, especially for people who go from that traumatic experience to immediate isolation in their own country.
Right. Damn, I could see that, man.
Listen, it comes down to political will.
Political will.
And and they only understand two things: money and fear. It's the only two things they understand: money and fear. And I'm not talking January 6th crazy dumb shit. I'm talking being smart and fear of them losing their job. Fear of organized fear of change, that they better negotiate now than get their change forced on me. It's the only thing is going to give us what we want.
Do you think? I mean, we're gonna.
And by the way, let me just say, most of the organizers are full of shit and not doing a damn thing right now. A lot of our unions are not doing what they should be doing. Even in cannabis, the old traditional, and I'm not going to call them out. They're not doing anything. We need real action in terms of what we want and how we're going to get it. And it's not going to get from sending some 3 or 4 college kids to DC to lobby for us. That's not going to do it.
Do you? This is going to go conspiracy here for a second, but do you believe there's like a background small group of people really controlling the show?
Yeah, they're called billionaires.
Right.
I don't think that's a conspiracy.
But the billionaires that are not even counted on the Forbes list type.
Well, listen, I mean, so I'll give you an example. I work for a gentleman called Bruce Kovner. They call him the super secret billionaire. He's Dick Cheney's best friend. I worked at his firm for 10 years. I didn't work directly for him. I worked at one of the partners had a line of money, and I worked with him to run it. But Bruce was around, and so he stayed out of the press. He was the anti-George Soros. So he didn't want... If people would do interviews, he'd be like, call up the reporter and say, don't report on me, right? But he got known for that. Listen, at the end of the day, we live in an oligarchy. At the end of from an economic standpoint, we live in an oligarchy. Money buys access. People with the money make the rules, right? The question I think we ask ourselves, was it always this bad, or is it just more transparent today? That's the question I think we have to ask ourselves, because the idealist goes, it's changed from my white picket fence. Really, did it change, or were you just not exposed because all we had was CBS, NBC, and ABC, and they were tightly controlled? Right. Now we got the internet. You're seeing shit going on, and I think it was more. I think it's always been this way, but I think it doesn't have to be this way. And I think it can be a better place. And I think with the transparency, we need to aim to be better, and we need that shine, that belief that we are the shiny city on that hill. But we've got to act a lot better to really claim that. And I think that's what we have to look at, where we failed as a country internally to our own communities, the drug war, cannabis.
Our culture.
Right.
And community with
If you go to Germany, right, their discussion on the Holocaust is very different than our discussion on some of the harms we've caused. I mean, you talk about, we can't even talk about, some of the racial crimes, committed against Black Americans. People freak out, right, about, the things going on. You go to Germany, they take everything seriously. They talk about it very in depth, very coming to terms with what happened, right? I think that's the only way you heal, to be honest with you. It's the only way we're going to heal this.
So just shoving it under the rug. And
it's just ridiculous to me, because no one's perfect. This country has always been built on exploiting immigrants, right? Yep. Some of them, whether you believe, it's like... Malcolm X said Plymouth Rock we didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on. There's truth, but it's that individual story of a community that's American as apple pie, and I don't mean that in a positive sense, right? Those are things that who we are. I mean, the Irish came as indentured service. The Latino community is doing a lot of the jobs we can't fill in America, right? Yeah. Look at the farm workers. I mean, that's a hell of a... Think about picking strawberries or picking crops in California when it's 110 out. It's like, are you out of your mind?
Not many people.
And they're out there doing it.
Yeah.
They're out there doing it. And this is the American dream. So my daughter's going to UCLA. I take her Saturday. One of the roommates I believe she has is the daughter of first-generation immigrant farm workers. And so that's the American dream. Her parents couldn't be happier to be American. That's the thing.
For sure.
They're getting exploited, and they couldn't be happier because they know their alternative back in Mexico isn't better.
Yeah.
So they're willing to put in that hard work for their kids, that future. That's what America's about.
That's pretty.
Amazing.
That's deep, man. Because I see that happen all the time.
Yeah.
And honestly, the immigrants are working harder.
100%.
They work hard.
And that's normal, right? Because they have that motivation, because that pain of not having money and not having access to health care is so close to them, right? If you're third generation trust fund kid, you don't live in the real world.
No.
You don't have to live in the real world. You have no understanding of the real world.
Yeah.
That's what the danger of having all these trust fund leaders and these oligarchies running. They have no perspective. To even know, when you disconnect the effects of policy from the policymakers, it's a shit show.
Yeah.
If you're flying private, do you give a fuck about what's going on at the airports with TSA? No.
No.
In fact, we differentiate. Now you pay and you can get faster service.
Yeah.
So rich people don't have to wait in line, right?
Yeah.
Go on the freeways in Southern California. Oh, I mean, I can go in this lane if I pay $14.
more, yep.
So I'm a working class stiff. Sorry, I got to be here for 3 hours, so I can't go home to my family, right? We've embedded this stupidity that isn't good policy. And the inequity is built into our system. And we say it's better. I don't understand how it's better. We have to have some common sense of community. And that's the effects affect us all equally. The demand for what we give is all equal within reason. You can have progressive tax records. But we're getting away from that. And we've gotten away from that. And it's been because we've torn apart the safety nets in our community since the Reagan Revolution in the 80s. Because we got to get leaner. You can only squeeze so much blood out of a rock.
I agree with that. 100%, man.
And you see what they've done to cannabis? That's what they did for everything else.
Everything else as in alcohol?
Our economy. Our economy.
Tobacco? Okay.
Big farms, big, thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's about concentration of production, concentration of ownership, and it can be controlled, and then it's controlled easier, and then everyone else becomes a renter in society. And you become a big, fat, constant, monthly, yearly check for their return to calculate in private equity. It's ridiculous. And remember, I worked on Wall Street for 20 years. It's corrupt as all hell.
Damn. Well, on that note, that was a lot of information, Sean. It is deep,
that was great.
And that's awesome.
I told you guys he'd tell you, so I had to bring him.
Yeah, that's great.
He tries to hide me.
I stay off camera.
So
There ain't no reason I
I'm
let the
gonna-
veterans. When people ask me, I go, come talk to the vets.
I'm gonna get.
You want to talk about politics and shit?
yeah.
Come talk to this guy.
I'm gonna get
here.
your number,
Tell me what I
Sean.
need to do.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
that's
shoot you
fucking-
questions, dude. Just shoot you questions, and you just explain stuff really well. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. Where can people find you guys? Instagram, social media, anything?
Instagram's been chopping at us, right? Like a lot of brands. So we do have, what's our Instagram right now?
We have WFW_Meds for Vets. That exists. I'm also, mine is Sean, SEA_Kernan. My last name, KIERNAN_WFWP. I'm posting the same stuff. Kevin has Semper Hi. He's our other partner. He's Semper Hi TV. And we've been started with our third or fourth new IG page in the past 3 or 4 months. WFW period project. I think this one is. Mark can look
We'll
it
go to
up.
our
We'll find
website.
them. We'll
Our
post them.
website,
We
yeah,
can
our
find them.
website,
Yeah.
WFWproject.org. All the events are on there. All our links are on there. Our link tree's got links to all kinds of stuff and some other resources and recommendations to come to our events. Help with $29, $30 recommendations through a couple of doctor services.
Cool.
So,
Nice.
Yeah.
What
That's awesome.
what can we be excited about coming new with you guys? Fresh, like what's coming up?
We have launched. So one of the things we've always, what do we do with the brand? Are we happy talking? Helping 500 vets a month, or what do we want to do? And so the whole idea is to take like a Newman's Own approach, use the brand, and we've got product in stores. We're just starting. We're doing licensing deals, like the first one we did with PAX, where they raised us. We're like, holy shit, we actually have money now. We can drive.
That's
and
awesome.
so we're trying to get into the legal markets. People want to help. How do we help you? And listen, most people say, I don't have time to organize. Most people, can I write a check, right? And so listen, if you can buy, flour of ours with our brand on it, if you can buy sauce, and we're coming to market with affordable medicine. I mean, we're trying to get, $20, $25 eighths, $30, $40 half ounces. We're getting, $25, grams, concentrated. And we're trying to address that access issue with our brand and stay real to who we are.
Yeah.
But everyone can buy it. And, we're just, the whole idea is to, let's see if we can do it. So right now we're launching the for-profit kind of, Newman's Own type, hey, support us and we'll take the money and be transparent and fix it. Right now, I think Mark said, we had our $11,000 sale last month. That's what we did last month. So it's we went from nothing to 11.
Awesome.
So that's great.
It's brand new. And so, we're on some, we're with Ease. We're with some, the big Elliott down at Catalyst has bought us on board. Some of the big brands up here, Sanctuary. I know we've talked with you and, they're all like, everyone's interested and everyone. So I think the more real we become, because everyone worries like every other brand, what's your staying power? How are you, can you really duplicate this? And that's what we're working through now. Like, yeah, we're real. We've got a locked in supply chain. The great thing is people want to help us in the legal market. So a lot of help.
I can see that.
That's awesome.
When you're doing something good for the community and building a community, that's like a no-brainer for a lot of the weed industry people that have been in it pre-64.
Yeah.
Like, we like that.
There's not many.
We like that shit.
Yeah.
We really do.
We do, and that's the people that are within those positions that can try to do something and get it done, and we're making it happen. So,
well, I hope that this platform helps that a little bit, and that means
we
that'll
appreciate
be great.
you guys inviting us on. All the donors that ever donate, and make it happen. They're the ones, the license holders that make it happen.
Oh yeah, well, we appreciate
thank you.
We appreciate having you guys on. Thank you so much. There was a lot of great information, Sean. A lot of good inspiration from you, man. Mark, that's really awesome, dude.
Guys. Thank you again for your service and.
It's one of my most.
I was just running away from the house. Don't thank me.
Yeah.
And I think
this is a great experience.
This is one of my best podcasts. Our best podcast. I really, and I never said that. It was really good.
Thank you, bro.
And I'm gonna try to support.
I know we already ran an hour and a half, right? We could go more. There's so many more topics, right?
Yeah.
And it's just so.
Well, you're more than welcome back anytime, and we'd love to have you on
Sacramento,
again.
Roseville, we're here.
That's what's up.
Sac down.
Yes,
That's where we're at.
That's where we're at.
Yeah, baby.
It's a secret. I'm just joking. Anybody
get
come
to
check
Vegas,
us
bring
out.
it to Vegas. I'm good. I'm available there. So
Maybe we'll take it on the road.
That's
there you
awesome.
go. MJ BizCon. Take it to MJ BizCon. That's what you need to do.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for watching today. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and share. And make sure you check these guys out on their website as well.
Oh yeah. Thank you, everybody. You have a great night.
Have a great day.
Yeah. Peace.
I always forget. We got a YouTube.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, we
Turn it back on.